What if I told you I turned a sketch and made it into reality? So before I break it down, let's just go ahead and play the scene.
It should be lengthy enough to seem substantial, yet concise enough to feel breezy. It should be serious, but with a slight wink. It should lay out a new course of action, but one that can change direction at any moment. If you must mention facts and figures, don't do so directly. The general thrust should remain embedded in one's mind forever, but specific words should be forgotten the moment they are heard. It should contain nothing that can't be confirmed or denied. It should be on my desk Friday morning.
So I'm going to break this down in simple terms. I already have covered what is recursion. So this is just a brief reintroduction into recursion. So you start an initial belief, check against reality. Does the evidence match? You then go to evaluate immediate consequence. Assess second order consequences, check meta consistency. Is the belief stable? If not, then update the belief. Then you just start that over and you just keep doing that until you have the final refined belief. So this is recursive logic. Like people don't understand, people think it's something it's not. But so I have this page on my Obsidian Publish. If you want to check that out, it's free. There's no ads, nothing like that. No ads at all. And yeah, it's pretty cool. But it basically explains like what is recursion and even how to use it personally. So for instance, if how to apply recursive logic personally. State clearly. Define your initial statement or belief. Example, authority figures never lie. Check against reality. Test your statement with real-world examples. Has an authority figure ever lied? Yes. Update belief. Second recursion. Adapt your statement based on evidence. Authority figures sometimes lie. So you're going back to the beginning, you see, but you're going forward still. Like you're progressing just slowly in chunks. Ask what happens if everyone believes your revised statement. People remain cautious, good, but trust suffers. What does caution do? Evaluate deeper implications. Fourth recursion. If caution erodes trust, could it harm healthy relationships? Overly cautious relationships are strained. Is universal caution always positive? Refine again to be more accurate and balanced. Authority figures can lie, critical thinking is necessary, and trust requires evidence. Each recursion refines and elevates your understanding. It's structured intentional improvement. Improvement. Okay, now we're gonna go into the paradox that I made like last year. So Russell's paradox. Russell's paradox is one of the most iconic fractures in the foundation of classical logic, a rupture that exposed the limits of self-referential systems. It asks a deceptively simple question: does the set of all sets that do not contain themselves contain itself? If it does, then it's by its own definition it should not, and if it does not, then it quantifies as a set that does not contain itself and should. This is where hypersanity enters. Russell's paradox isn't a bug, it's a threshold, a doorway to post-logical thinking, a glimpse into what happens when frameworks begin to question themselves and find new recursive ways to survive the contradictions they uncover. So think about it as patching bugs real time. What happens when a system turns inward, when a framework attempts to include itself in its own scope of analysis? This is the heart of self-referential recursion, a property that both empowers and destabilizes any logical, philosophical, or computational structure. The moment a framework attempts to universalize, to apply its logic to all things, including itself, becomes vulnerable to paradox. Take the Grelling-Nelson paradox, for instance. It asks whether the word heterological, meaning a word that does not describe itself, actually describes itself. If it does, then it doesn't. If it doesn't, then it does. This is not just wordplay. It reveals a fundamental law and linguistic self-reference. Then consider Gödel's incompleteness theorems, which showed that any sufficient complex mathematical system contains truths it cannot prove. In words, no system can fully explain itself from within. There will always be blind spots, hidden truths that require a meta language or external perspective to even recognize. Self-referential frameworks are like Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail. They are closed loops of logic, elegant and fatal. They cannot be resolved by ordinary analysis because they occupy a unique dimension. Both they are both object and observer, both rule and exception. This recursive instability is not a weakness, it is a signal. It tells us when a framework has grown powerful enough to observe its own limitations. And when that happens, two outcomes are possible: collapse. The system rejects the contradiction and breaks down, or transcendence. The system evolves a recursive logic that can survive self reference. This is the birth of the hypersanity paradox, a recursive intelligence that includes its own framework within its logic, not by solving the paradox, but by integrating it into a higher order process. The hypersanity paradox. Frameworks that question themselves must constantly self update, like refactoring while running, avoid collapse into contradiction. To question your own framework is to walk the knife's edge between clarity and collapse. But what if that questioning wasn't a breakdown? What if it became a feature? This is the core of the hypersanity paradox, the state in which a system is intelligent enough to interrogate its own logic without destroying itself, a system that evolves not despite contradiction but through it. Most systems, philosophical, political, logical, crack under recursion. The moment they include themselves in their own critical scope, they spiral into paradox. But hypersanity isn't about eliminating contradiction, it's about becoming structurally adaptive to it. Hypersanity is the recursive capacity to identify one's own assumptions, critique them without ejecting the system entirely, update the core while the system remains running. Imagine a computer program that rewrites its own operating code while it's executing. It doesn't crash, it reconfigures. That's what a hypersane framework does. It's not just logic, it's living logic. It adapts in real time, guided by recursive meta awareness. It holds space for contradiction the way a Zen cone holds space for silence, and it forces any thinker, machine, or ideology to become anti fragile, not just resistant to chaos, but improved by it. The hypersanity paradox is what happens after Russell, after Gödel, when you realize that every foundation cracks under recursion, and you stop looking for foundations, you start scaffolding instead, not to support absolute truth, but to climb toward adaptive understanding. It is the paradox that doesn't resolve, it grows. Like a Fibonacci spiral, if you want it.
Did you write this?
Yes.
It's very good. He'll be pleased. Not only are you writing his words, you are speaking his language. You know, when I first got here, we had a saying: